Hello, YouTubers. This is my introduction to what they call wet shaving, traditional wet shaving. I'm not sure of the specific terms, but essentially it is using the old-fashioned either a straight razor or a double-edged razor, double-edged safety razor. And wanted to put up, I guess, a few specific pointers that I've noticed have been kind of left out by some YouTubers on this subject, and I wanted to kind of put in some ideas for those who are new or looking to possibly even improve on what they've done in the past. So, particularly today, I wanted to kind of put in my plug, I guess, for using just simply a bar of soap and probably just any kind of really lightly scented or non-scented soap. This is a blend glycerin with animal fat, and this is good old ivory here, which is probably predominantly animal fat. That is what I've used for 10 plus 15 years doing this kind of shaving. And I know a lot of people remember my dad growing up using a big mug, well, not necessarily big, but kind of a medium-sized mug, sat permanently in the bathroom, taking up space, and with this was the old blue-handled boar brush from Walmart, which is relatively cheap and junky compared to this German tater boar brush that I picked up probably almost 30 years ago in Austria. So I've used bars of soap. There's a lot of talk about using a special soap. It has to be really according to certain specs or whatnot. And I personally, I guess my take, particularly for this video, is that the lather is probably just as important as the razor. So the lather does have to be of a certain quality, has to be able to do the job, and that job is essentially to almost encapsulate the hair on your skin and lubricate the skin as well. So you've kind of encapsulated the hairs, made them kind of stand up to where they can be caught by the blade. So that's really kind of what that's about. So there's three choices as far as natural hair, for the most part. A boar hair brush, a badger fur, really, and this one I made horsehair. And so essentially the badger has the most hairs per linear space, so in that way it is able to catch more lather, more soap, and potentially make a thicker lather quicker and easier. The horsehair, and I am available to hand make a custom made horsehair brush if that is something you might be interested in. Horsehair is in between the two, and again, going back to remembering my dad having his own Walmart boar brush. It does not have the amount per linear inch, and so it takes more work, back and forth in order to generate the same lather that one might get from a badger brush. There are synthetic brushes, people like that, but personally, I mean, I prefer to get away from plastics and want to use as little plastic as possible. And so, while certainly, the badger that this came from was probably tortured, would be my guess within its lifetime. Badger has been a desired one. I know that some people will shave hogs, I believe, and not kill them in order to get their hair. And usually horses are not necessarily killed or tortured in the process of getting their hair, but that, depends on each individual particular case. So let's get started here. As far as the lather goes, but before I do that, I will go into the razors themselves, I guess, a little bit. So that's another point of contention, is how do you hold this? So I remember reading when I bought an Edwin Jagger that they encourage, holding at the very end with just the forefinger and the thumb, and then allowing the weight of the razor to slide onto the face. However, it can be a little dodgy to control that, so you have to grip fairly firmly until it is on your face, and also maneuvering it, you're going to have to grip it, fairly firmly, because the idea is to use the weight of the razor rather than pushing in to achieve, the stroke. While we're on the topic of the stroke, again, typically, historically, it's been best to just kind of make short nicks along, rather than trying a long stroke. Usually gives a closer, cleaner shave, even though it may be a little bit more work. What that is allowing to do is the hairs are going to kind of come back up and gain more contact with the blade, rather than doing a long stroke, which you basically flatten them, making it more difficult to get close to the hairs. So as I said, Edwin Jagger, believe, recommended holding with the very end, with just the forefinger and thumb. But a lot of people adopt a grip where they balance the end of the razor on their pinky, and then use the forefinger and thumb to grab essentially where the balance point of the razor is. So that's kind of something to experiment with. I've found it that I often actually change the grip and will hold it right at the balance point, which actually doesn't allow you to put much weight of the razor into your skin for more maneuverable spots where you need to kind of get into nooks and crannies on your face, but then will then slide back to kind of a pinky on the end of the razor as you go into actually shaving. So to use a bar of soap, you are going to avoid using a mug, scuttle, even though a lot of people like to do that. You dampen, load up the brush, and then maybe just shake it dry to where it's not excessively dripping off, and then load the brush with your soap. And so this is where a little bit of the art meets science. So you're going to load it up to be not terribly thick. And again, a lot of people do like to get like quite a lot of soap, really, I think. And so that brush is then loaded. And then to bring it to kind of the consistency, you dampen your hand and work that to get enough and to get it of a kind of a creamy, whipped cream, maybe a little bit slightly thinner than a hard whipped cream type of a texture. And at that point, you've got probably enough to coat your face. So again, a lot of people talk about face lathering or bowl lathering. A lot of people will work the lather on their actual face rather than working it up, in the palm or another surface, which I think again is maybe kind of a waste of time, although working it in a little bit does incorporate the hairs that you've got into the cream, which enables you to be more effective. So here you can start off with just the forefinger and thumb, and just you essentially place the razor and then feel for where it's starting to resist and bite into the hair. And a lot of people, again, encourage shaving against, multiple strokes, relathering, going back, going against the grain, etc. Again, I think it's a little bit excessive and really doesn't need to happen. But on average, I will do 3 strokes, all with the grain, which again, as I recall, with Edwin Jagger, that's what they recommend as well. So using your palm, you've got a little left over, most likely, as well as in your loaded brush. You can go ahead and get a little bit more to make sure everything has been done, and do another swipe. So always with the grain, doesn't have to be a big production or complicated. It's very fast. I mean, typically, again, when I first got into it, there was a kind of a going idea that one could really do this in about 3 minutes. You don't need to be doing 10 minutes or more. 3 minutes for an average man would be plenty good. So that's kind of that. And I believe I've covered just about all the topics that I wanted to touch. Just 2, last things is that essentially for the brushes, it's recommended that you use hair conditioner on those every week or month or so to keep that hair alive and not brittle. That a lot of people forget that. And so you're moisturizing your face, with the soap. Again, you can experiment with a glycerin soap, a tallow soap, and all that, and kind of get an idea of what's best for you. A lot of people, they really get into products. I don't believe in that. I mean, if you're using a good soap, it's hydrating your skin while you're shaving as well. So I think that's excessive, but definitely use some conditioner on the hairs of the brush every so often is very beneficial. And then as far as storage and cleaning, so during the shave, you may in fact kind of loosen this the head a little bit and give it a nice wash. And then for storing, I mean, people store them this way and whatnot, but typically I think just laying it so that it's up in the air gives more opportunity to dry and to drain all that liquid away. And then, when it comes time to change the blade, again, that's kind of subjective. I mean, I honestly get probably 20 shaves out of a blade, which is probably, again, probably quite a bit, I mean, I think typically they recommend about, 6 or 7 or maybe even less, but typically I'm getting probably about 20 shaves. Take the head apart, clean it gently with probably an old toothbrush, wipe it dry with a soft towel. Again, natural fiber is probably better. And then drop a little bit of oil, mineral oil, baby oil, a real light engine oil down into that hole before putting it loosely back together. You can work the oil kind of on the threads back and forth and put it away, and that will take care of it. So hope this is of help, and hope you all do well out there.